People there see things differently because I was born and raised there. In the US, people see dogs as people, but in Mexico, they see Cesaran, a famous dog that is known all over the world. He is famous for being able to help even the most tough dogs get better. It's easy to be around him, and his philosophy is one of the strongest in the world. A lot of dog owners have been able to change their ties with their dogs with Cesar's help. His work life was going well, but his personal life was slowly getting out of hand. Cesar went through a lot of hurtful losses and betrayals, and he quickly reached his lowest point. He had trouble with sadness and addiction, and he sometimes thought about putting his life down. How did he get to this point where he could no longer handle things? Was he able to get back? Let's find out. Cesar Millan's Truths and Lies in the Rise Before the Fall. He didn't have an easy time becoming the famous dog whisperer. It was about bravery, strength, and a bond with animals that could never be broken. Cesar has had an amazing journey. He went from being a young man with a strange dream and a lot of unexpected problems to becoming a famous dog whisperer. In his journey to make a life for himself in the United States, he had many unique experiences. Cesar walked across the border into California when he was 21 years old. He had no money, no job, and no English skills at all. There was only one thing he was sure of: he was meant to work with dogs. You wouldn't call the move from California your best traveling trip to stay living. Cesar slept on the street for a while and did odd jobs as they came up. He never gave up his natural instincts or love for animals, though. It was his job as a dog trainer that gave him his first big break. He was different from most people because he could calm down even the meanest dogs. Word got out the door pretty quickly. Cesar quickly became known as an expert at training dogs that other people thought were untrainable. Cesar didn't use treats or teaching methods that only focused on behavior. He used cues that were more kind, lively, and leader-like, based on how animals think and act. As word spread about him, more and more people hired him. Jada Pinkett Smith, an actress, was one of his first clients. She hired him and also helped him learn English. She thought he was talented and encouraged him to follow his sincere goals. Cesar was able to make more connections with her help and finally got some attention in Hollywood. His big break came in 2002 when Cesar worked with director Ridley Scott's Dogs, which was written about in People magazine. After the story was picked up by TV producers, Cesar quickly got a job as an on-camera dog teacher on the show Dog Whisperer with Cesar Millan. The show began in 2004. It was a huge hit for the National Geographic Channel and showed how he could train even the most difficult dogs to behave again by being cool and firm. It was simple and deep for Cesar to think that dogs don't need love. They need to be active, trained, and then loved. His ideas were new, and people all over the world followed them. A huge number of people watched Cesar turn dogs that were mean, scared, and disobedient into calm, well-behaved pets. Cesar became well known as word about him spread and his impact grew. He opened the Dog Psychology Center in Los Angeles and worked with some of the cutest dogs in the world. His mind-shifting theory was shared with dog owners who needed it in many of his best-selling books, such as Cesar's Way. Even though he was successful, Cesar stayed dedicated to his cause. He started the Cesar Millan Pack Project, a non-profit group that helps animals in need and teaches people how to be good pet parents. There were effects of Cesar's TV show that went far beyond TV as well. He became known all over the world as an expert on dog behavior and helped people get along better with their dogs. The perfect storm: loss, divorce, and business betrayal. Cesar Millan, who was known around the world as the Dog Whisperer, seemed to have a dream life. Cesar became famous around the world for his amazing ability to bond with and heal dogs. He became a TV star and built a successful business company. However, Cesar was facing huge personal problems that would test his strength and change the course of his life. Beneath the surface of his success, Cesar Millan became the most well-known person when his show Dog Whisperer with Cesar Millan became a hit. He came up with a new way to help dogs get back to their owners, and millions of people thought it was great. This led to many book deals, trips around the world, and the opening of the Dog Psychology Center in Los Angeles. Although Caesar was glad to have so many commitments, they also meant that he had to take care of more things. Taking care of a company with many parts took time and mental effort. Caesar started to feel stressed out because he expected to always make some kind of good change, and because he was in public life, everyone was looking at him. That same drive that made him famous seemed to take over every part of his life now, leaving no time for himself. At the same time as the stress and expectations of his job grew, his personal life started to go in different directions. His marriage to Cesar Millan, which was based on a strong friendship and business relationship, began to fall apart because of all of this work. Their relationship started to fall apart because he had to travel all the time and meet the needs of his kingdom all the time. The two got into a fight in June 2010, and Mrs. Cesar Millan asked for a divorce. The split wasn't just an emotional process, it was also a practical and financial one, since they could not live without each other in their personal and work lives. Caesar had to take care of their two young children and run his business in a new way after they left. It was a big step in his life. In addition to his personal problems, Caesar had to deal with tough situations at work. He put important parts of his business in the hands of close friends, but there were times when that trust was broken. While some information is still private, this kind of abuse happens all the time with businesses and celebs. In the middle of all of Caesar's personal and work problems, he was hit with another terrible blow: the death of his beloved pit bull Daddy. Since he was 16 years old, Daddy had been a friend, a co-therapist in rehab, and an example of Caesar's theory in action for him. Because Daddy was always calm and friendly, he was very important to Caesar's work. He helped with training classes all the time and was a model of good behavior. After Daddy died in February 2010, Caesar had a huge hole in his heart. He was honest about how sad he was when he said, "Losing Daddy hit me hard. Also, his death happened during a hard time for me personally." Caesar's mental problems got worse when he lost more things. He went through a time of deep sadness and reflection. A lot of bad things happened all at once for Caesar. His marriage ended, agreements were broken in his work group, and his father died. He was very lost. He was very close to his jobs as Daddy's partner, husband, and a trustworthy leader in the community of dog recovery. Caesar had trouble figuring out what his life's meaning was after those three important pillars were taken away. Caesar finally lost it during this time of asking and arguing, because he was clearly in a lot of emotional pain. Under the weight of his problems that were getting worse, Caesar tried to kill himself in May 2010 but failed. Caesar started a journey of self-discovery and healing using the same standards he pushed for canine rehabilitation: balance, calmness, and confidence. He did this because he knew he needed to change. Going to therapy, spending time with family again, and giving himself time to grieve were all very important steps in this process. Caesar also found comfort in working with dogs, which helped him show more compassion and understanding for both the dogs and their owners. He took in a new student, Junior, a pit bull who was chosen to follow in his path. With this new plan, Caesar was able to move forward with his goal, remembering Daddy's memory while also using the lessons from his daily life to help him on his own journey. During this troubled time, Caesar went through a trial that changed the way he thought about success and his own well-being. He came out with a renewed commitment to being real, and the knowledge that real security includes both work success and personal happiness. Because Caesar was honest about his problems, many people are reminded of how important it is to be strong, know yourself, and ask for help when you need it. What was the worst part? When he tried to kill himself and became hooked on drugs. Unfortunately, Caesar's problems were getting worse. Once more, the famous dog whisperer was at his worst in 2010. Even though he had a lot of success and thought he had gotten over his problems, he was still having trouble with the most important things. After losing his wife and being cut off from all contact with his kids, losing his dog was the next worst thing that could have happened to him. Caesar thought of the dog as a close friend, and he had been by his side for many years. He tried to get himself together right away after losing him, but for a while he thought he had already done it. Then, though, his sadness hit him again. The worry and emotional pain this caused him was too much for him to handle. Caesar knew he was good at helping dogs who were having problems get back on track and cool down. When his life started to get out of hand again, he really felt like he was losing who he was. His age made him start to question what his true goal in life was. The next thing that could be done was to end his life. In fact, he tried to do that. Between May and June 2010, Caesar had enough. It was the growing stress along with the sadness and guilt that finally broke him. He started to think about committing suicide. In a terrible moment of weakness, the young man gave up and took too much medicine. He hoped that the medicine he took would finally make his mental pain go away. Soon he was found not awake and taken to the hospital right away. Thank goodness he got to the hospital quickly enough for them to save his life. But that event still turned out to be one of the most important in his life. At that point, people who knew him well started to really see how badly he was suffering. But Caesar never talked about this suicide attempt in public until a long time after the fact. He told people that he had already created a public image of being calm and in charge, so it was hard for him to accept that he was fighting such big problems. Thankfully, he was able to find the strength to do that after a few years. He made a movie called Cesar Millan, the real story in which he talked about these worries. He even said that he felt in the video, hey. He felt like a total failure at that time and thought he had lost everything as a husband and a man, so there was nothing left to live for. As soon as Caesar got away from the suicide attempt, he started having problems with his feelings. It got too much for him and he had to take drugs to dull the pain. This was a terrible mistake for him though, because he became hooked on it right away. At that point in time, drugs were a way for him to escape. Last but not least, he didn't have to go through the pain by himself. He could get drugs to help him deal with the pain. It didn't matter that Caesar was known for helping a lot of people get their lives under control because he was already going too far. It was very clear that Caesar was slowly losing his balance while helping other people get it back. Caesar quickly fell deeper into depression and confusion because of his drug use, and he began using drugs to run from his world, which he thought was so terrible. But the more he tried to escape reality and get deeper into drugs, the more he lost touch with his reason for living. The man who used to be a great example of a patient leader soon started to feel completely cut off from everything that used to make him happy. In both his personal and work life, he was lost. During his life, this man had mostly taught others how to be cool and lead with care, but now he was going through chaos and having doubts about himself. He told people that the way to find peace was to understand and lead, but he had a hard time following those same rules himself. How it affected the family. During this time, Caesar didn't know that he wasn't really alone in this fight, even though he may have thought that he was. He wasn't the only one who felt this awful emotion. After losing his family, Caesar may have felt like he wasn't worth anything, but that family had to watch him get worse and worse without knowing how to help. They didn't like how they felt. It was his two boys, Andre and Calvin, who really felt this way because they had seen him get worse. The two boys watched as the calm and warm mood quickly changed to one of stress. They saw as the bond between their parents got worse. This is always the case in homes that are broken into. The parents might be so caught up in how they feel that they can't see how their kids are hurting too. The truth is that kids generally pay very close attention, so they can see even the smallest changes. Caesar's two boys saw that their family's behavior had changed. What used to look like a very lively home was now full of the sounds of worries that weren't being said. But this stress wasn't just felt by the main family, it was also felt by the broader family. Used to be united by a common goal and purpose, but now it looked like the very thing they were fighting for was disappearing. They used to laugh and be happy when they got together, but now they only talked about Caesar's health. Plus, this wasn't the most interesting subject. Soon things got worse, and seeing a loved one's behavior get worse caused a lot of mental stress and a feeling of not being able to do anything. Caesar didn't live in a dream world for long, and he soon realized how his acts affected his family. All of his late nights and mental withdrawal shed light on the pain he couldn't tell anyone about. He quickly realized that this pain was affecting everyone who really cared about him.
He felt heavy when he realized this because he knew that his problems were the main reason his family was in so much pain. At that point, healing wasn't just important for getting better from his injuries, it was also important for getting back together with the people he loved. Caesar may have made a decision to change when he saw that his kids were pulling away from him. They were afraid of their dad now because they thought he might hurt them. That's why they took a big step away from his life. It felt like he was losing everything at that point, and he would never get it back as things were going. This made him pull back and think about his trip all over again. He thought about his loved ones and children who had to watch him go through the worst time of his life. He had his wake-up call as he kept thinking about this. He understood that he would have to rebuild his life and fix his relationships. That's what Caesar knew. He couldn't do this by himself and would need help to get it done. So he started to look for help from professionals so that he could face his fears. Caesar started going to therapy. It was important for him to figure out where his problems and acts came from and how he could deal with them. During therapy, he was asked to have an open conversation with his kids at some point. This stage helped his cause a lot, and it also gave him a way to say what he felt. As a way to start getting better, he also asked for forgiveness. Caesar didn't want to lose the praise, fame, and attention he had already earned. Even though they seemed empty, these were the things that made him happy. That and the love he got from his family, which seemed like it was going to end, made him feel like he would soon be an outsider in his family. And this fear was what pushed him to make a transformation. To heal and find answers to these problems staring him in the face, Caesar had to go back to the things that had made him great in the first place: discipline, energy, and control. He had to do this with the help of his doctor. These good qualities helped him a lot when he talked about how to train dogs. So the only thing that could be done was to use the same method to run his own life. For that reason, he and his doctor started to make an organized routine that would help him stay calm and strong. Not long after, Caesar started living his real. He taught people how to live with their dogs, and now he was starting to accept all the honesty and authenticity that came with having the best life possible. He taught other people how to live with their dogs, and those lessons soon became the most important part of his own recovery. Caesar had to learn how to control his own thoughts. He learned not only how to do that, but also how to handle. He learned not only how to do that, but also how to handle his feelings and thoughts. And this was a lot like the way he always led his dogs. He started to focus more on ways to become more self-aware and clear his mind. Caesar put the most weight on the techniques he knew were well known for lowering stress and improving mental health. Focusing on building the same traits he used to train his dogs, consistency, patience, and presence, helped him find peace within himself. Being close to nature and animals was another thing that really helped him through this time. These were also the places where he felt most at ease. Working with dogs and being in nature have always been things he loved. This helped him heal, especially since spending time with animals has been shown to lower stress and boost happiness. Caesar started making a more structured and meaningful daily routine for himself as he took care of and trained his dogs every day. This system made him feel like he had accomplished something and reminded him of how important it is to be constant. He also got the loving support he needed to get his emotions back in order while he was with the dog. Caesar's healing was helped by working with dogs, which gave him a sense of purpose again, and showed him all the good things that can happen when you care about and commit yourself to something. While he was teaching the dogs, he learned a lot about leadership and drive. He learned that he had more control over his dog's behavior when he calmed down and put out more good energy. During this time, Caesar and everyone else learned that relationships between people and animals had a big effect on mental health. This is why so many people agree that having an emotional pet dog is a good idea. People began to do what they saw Caesar do, and their lives became very stable, which was something they had been trying to get for a long time. The system Caesar had not only helped him deal with his nervousness and feel in charge, but it also helped many other people do the same. He was responsible for feeding, teaching, and taking care of the dogs under this framework. Caesar also said that the dogs themselves were a powerful lesson for him to always be in the present. He saw that these dogs were always focused on the present. They had no regrets about the past and no worries about the future. Caesar quickly started to think the same way. This change in his point of view made a big difference in how calm and happy his life was. Now, most of the study has shown that there are many healing benefits, especially when it comes to spending time with animals. According to these studies, having a pet can actually make you less stressed, healthier in heart ways, and happier in general. Just being around these animals can help people who are anxious or depressed feel better and give them the comfort and company they need. Caesar's relationships with dogs helped him heal and strengthened his working force. So this idea seemed to be true. People at the time said all of these things were going on, but the public didn't. But when people heard about his problems, some of them were so harsh that they even called into question the ways he tried to show that he was human. They thought he was being too hard on himself and doing things that would make things worse for him. But this wasn't true for Caesar. He wasn't being too hard on himself. He just realized he needed to fix things and do what would make him happy in the long run. Caesar had to deal with all the stresses that came with protecting his brand, and he also started a trip of personal healing around the world. When Caesar told everyone about his personal problems, it made a lot of people feel a lot of different things. It also had an effect on all of his fans around the world. Fans showed up to say they couldn't believe it. He was having a hard time and he was even working hard to get his name and image back. None of his fans knew about this. Lots of people started to back him up, but lots of people, they had no idea how he could have such problems in the first place. He taught, but did he really, or was it just a way for him to make money? They started to question all of his training methods and told others not to follow his advice because they didn't think it was good or moral. A lot of people finally showed up and started to show their support. Many people felt sorry for him and started to pray for his quick recovery. Whatever problems Caesar had in his personal life, he was able to handle the job of keeping his professional. His name was linked to power and skill in teaching dogs. Teaching dogs. Caesar studying to power and skill in teaching dogs. Still, it was very hard for him to keep up his image and keep his head held. After the public learned about his personal problems, he did his best to act like nothing was wrong while he worked on his own recovery. But this only made things harder for him. It also made him think about his job as a public figure and a person who was going through a lot of change, recovery, and a fresh look at things. Once Caesar got over his sadness, he knew he had to do something to help other people. That's why he decided to change his sense of purpose. After that, he put all of his energy into starting new businesses, projects, and books. He worked hard on these projects and used everything he knew to help them. With each project, Caesar showed how he had learned to be more careful over the years. People noticed that his mindset changed during this time, which showed that real leadership comes from within. People watched as his story went from being dominated by the outside world to being more balanced within himself. During training, they also saw that this fit perfectly with his emotional. Caesar became a huge supporter of mental health after getting through a very bad time. He learned that letting people know they are not alone was one of the best ways to help them. He started to talk about how hard life was for him, how he couldn't keep up, and how he felt empty and useless at the end. People who are in pain or having mental health problems can find hope in his story. It gave them the strength to go to counseling, therapy, and other places. It soon grew beyond his personal brand and turned into a place where people from all over the world could go to get help. A lot of people got help from him. Caesar's journey helped him show how important health is. And what do you think? Did these events really mark a turning point in his life, or were they just a part of a bigger journey? Would it be possible that his problems made him a better coach and trainer? Type your ideas in the box below. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you liked this video. You can find more videos like this one.